Welcome to the Jim Florentine Comedy Metal Midgets podcast on riotcast.com. A lot of people want me to do a podcast on awful vanity license plates. I get a lot of pictures sent to me. Look at this license plate, how awful it is. So I think I will do that one in the next week or two. So if you guys see any bad vanity license plate, take a picture and send it to comedymetalmidgets@gmail.com. And that will be a future podcast. I don't like those vanity license plates. Whenever you guys send them, I'm like, ugh, that's disgusting. No reason for that. So that will be a future podcast. If you see any bad ones, snap a picture of it and send it along the way. Tour dates, October 3rd and 4th. I'm going to be in the Joke Factory in Rochester, New York. October 10, 11, right outside of Minnesota, New Hope Cinema in New Hope, Minnesota. October 16th through 18th. The Funny Stop in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. And then November 1st, a place in, what the hell is it? It's in Jersey. I can't remember what the hell the place is. Well, November 6th through the 9th, I'll be in Cleveland at the Improv in Cleveland. And then Comedy Cove in Springfield, New Jersey, Saturday night, November 1st. And then I got tour dates coming in January in Atlanta, Dallas, and Fort Myers, Florida. So I'll get that shit posted soon. So check it out if you can. Sometimes on the podcast, we get advertisers. We don't get many. I work for a network, the Riotcast Network. There's a bunch of podcasts on there, and advertisers will come along and say, hey, I want to advertise on all the podcasts for a few weeks. So why not? You guys know I'm not a big fantasy football fan, obviously. I'm a big NFL fan, but I don't like it. But just, DraftKings.com wants to advertise on the podcast. We did it last year. They advertised for a few weeks. I understand most of the audience that listens to the podcast do play fantasy football. Not my thing, but hey, what the hell? What are you going to do? It helps fund the podcast. Also, if you go to Amazon.com, always shop there. Go to my website, JimFlorentine.com. Click on the Amazon button. But anyway, so listeners are winning. First of all, let's get back to the NFL real quick before I do this. I love that TMZ is basically bringing down the NFL because they don't give a shit. They don't have a vested interest in the NFL. I just love that that's going on. Now we're like 3 weeks after the whole Ray Rice incident, after I did that podcast, and I predicted that nothing was going to happen to Roger Goodell. Nothing's going to happen to him. It's pretty much blown over. Not too many people are talking about it anymore. He's got his independent investigator, a guy he hired, investigating himself, with two of his good buddies overseeing the whole investigation. So nothing is going to happen. Like I said, business as usual. He survived it. And, yeah, what are you going to do? But I love it that everybody's finally called him out and realizing what a sleaze slime ball he is, basically. Just lying everywhere. You think he's going to be... No, seriously, do you really think he's going to be truthful when that guy... He doesn't go on the oath. When he goes, Roger, did you see that tape? No. Yeah, I saw it. You did? Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'll admit it. I saw it. The guy's making $44 million a year. You think he's going to say yes when he's not on the oath? Please. Anyway, listeners are winning huge cash prizes every week at DraftKings.com. You could be crowned the next fantasy football millionaire this weekend. DraftKings is America's favorite one-week fantasy football site. Last year, one player turned $11 into $4,000. Another won $100,000 his first time ever playing, and another one won $1 million in one day. Enormous cash prizes are paid out every week at DraftKings.com. Play 1 week fantasy at DraftKings to turn your season-long fantasy research into instant cash. Hurry and free entry into the Million Maker event this weekend, where the first place takes home $1 million. If one of my listeners does this and wins $1 million, I want 5%. That's fair. I gave you the lead. And that's before taxes, because after taxes, it'll be like $300,000 you'll get. But, yeah, you can make $1 million. Head over to DraftKings.com now and enter the promo code PODCAST to play free to become a millionaire. DraftKings.com, bigger events, bigger winnings, bigger millionaires. Enter podcast for free entry now at DraftKings.com. DraftKings.com, that's DraftKings.com. All right. This week's podcast, I interviewed Judas Priest a couple months ago. Rob Halford, the singer, Glenn Tipton, and the new guitar player, Richie Faulkner. The new album was coming out, Redeemer of Souls. I'm going to see him next week. I'm excited, and this will be the interview that I play with them promoting their new record. I've been a huge Priest fan for a long time. I remember the first time I saw him, maybe 14 years old, Asbury Park Convention Hall. Iron Maiden was opening for Judas Priest. I'm 14 years old. Smoking pot, smoking cigarettes, drinking. And what happens is my mom dropped me and my friends off in the neighborhood at the concert and was going to pick us up afterwards. So what you usually do, you had a little like prep starter kit, is you always had Visine, so you put in your eyes so it gets the red out from you when you're smoking pot and the cigarettes. You put the Visine before you get out of the concert, and you also have a can of Banaka spray. Spray that in your mouth that covers up the alcohol in your breath and the cigarettes. So you always had that available, so you never got busted. But what happened was on the encore, I'm up in the balcony section. As soon as Judas Priest comes on the encore, Hellbent for Leather starts. Rob Halford comes out on his motorcycle. I decide to throw a smoke bomb and roll it down the stairs in the upper deck. Smoke everywhere. People I don't know why. People used to bring fireworks to concerts and light them off like a pack of firecrackers would get blown off right by your head. People bring M80s, blockbusters, and just throw them. So I had a smoke bomb. I lit it, rolled it down the aisle. One of the security guys saw me do it. He comes over. He's ready to throw me out. I'm denying it, of course. He just opens like a side door and just chucks me out into the lobby of Convention Hall, and my mom is waiting right there. I basically landed at her feet. The guy slams the door. My mom's like, "What happened?" I go, "They just threw me out." She's like, "Why?" I go, "Somebody threw a smoke bomb. The guy thought it was me, and they threw me out." She goes, "Let's go back to the front. We'll get you back in there." I go, "Nah, it's okay. It's the last song." I wasn't going to argue with him. I knew I did it. But now I didn't have a chance to prep and go get the Visine or the Banaka. And she's like, "Why are your eyes so red?" I'm like, I came up with this lie right on the spot. I go, "It was a smoke bomb. It went off right next to me. That smoke killed my eyes." She's like, "Oh, okay." And luckily I got out of it. First of all, why was I smoking pot, smoking cigarettes, and drinking at 14? There's no reason for that, but it was beautiful. So anyway, here's Judas Priest, the interview I did with Rob Halford, Glenn Tipton, and Richie Faulkner, and we'll play a brand new song off of Redeemer of Souls. It's the first track called Dragonaut. We'll see you next week. All right, it's Jim Florentine. I'm here with Richie Faulkner, Rob Halford, and Glenn Tipton from Judas Priest. Brand new record, Redeemer of Souls. With the history of the music you guys have, why was it so important to make a new record at this point? A lot of bands will just play their old songs. Most of the fans want to hear, but was it important for you guys to do some new music?
I think you're more relevant when you're making new music, and that's probably for the band as well as for the amazing fans that look after us. We've always been driven by two things. That's new metal and the fans that look after us.
Yeah, I think that if you've got it in you, you've got to put it down.
It's an incredibly forward-thinking statement to make as well, I think, with a band that's had a 40-year career. As you said, it could be easy to sit back on your laurels and, play the old stuff all the time, but to actually come out after 40 years with a new, focused, forward-thinking direction, I think that's a strong statement to be making at this stage of the career.
There's a lot of bands that have been around for a while that have the philosophy, like, why make a new record? People aren't buying records anymore, and most of the fans just want to hear the old stuff anyway, so it's a waste. Yeah, but you guys think differently.
Well, I think maybe it's different in metal. I think the metal heads are always eager to consume some new music, whatever it might be. But that's just been part of what's driven us 40 years, hasn't it, Glenn? That's just what we do. We write metal, we record it, and then we play it out live and replicate that over 40 years of time.
I think, if you create, you don't necessarily create nowadays to make money. You create because you've still got stuff left in you want to say. It's like another chapter in the book and another chapter in the book. You can always add a chapter.
With the catalog you guys have at a new record, then it must be tough when you guys are going out to tour to figure out how many new songs to put in the set.
It's one of the major dilemmas we've always had is picking set lists, because you always disappoint people. No matter what you do, what you play, and last tour is 2.5 hours with a track off every album. we still missed off some people's favourite track, and they'd say, "Why don't you play this? Why don't you play that?" And you say, "Well, we can't play everything. We do our best, but you can't." It's a big dilemma.
I think where we're at now is we will try and do what most bands do when they have a new record, is promote the new record, but then back it up with the obvious songs that if we didn't play Breaking the Law, we'd get murdered. That's just the rabidness of the fans' passion. So you do your best to try and accommodate everybody's needs and make the show interesting. To try and bring all the textures, the different tempos, the different types of intensities, just mix it up so that even if you haven't heard your favourite track, at least you've heard some of the many, many various atmospheres of Priest coming to you in a night's performance.
Well, regarding the new record as well, and the new songs, they're instantly, when you're coming up with the ideas and you sit in the room and you're creating these songs, it's instantaneous. Some of the riffs are like, we've got to play this live. This is going to be great live. You can almost envisage how it's going to be live, and as a fan as well, they're going to get this material, and that's the first thing, and they're going to think, I can't wait to see this live. So these songs are crying out to be played live. So it's going to be an exciting time to take them out on the road with the classics. And I think the fans are going to go nuts.
I just heard the record, and when I heard Battle Cry, that song, I'm like, that's a great live song. That should be in the set. Redeemer of Souls, Cold Blooded is another one that could easily be in a set. I'm sitting there going, these are the songs. Or March of the Damned is another one. So it's going to be tough for you guys to...
Just tough to pick off the new album, what we're going to play, let alone the other 18 albums that we've got to choose from. So.
In some instances, bands generally just only want to go and play one or two tracks for whatever reasons. But I think part of the love that Priest has had for metal is that we don't put filler material in. Every single track is important. The first one is important as the sixth or the eighth or whatever. And so we do tend to create a bit of our own dilemma in that respect, because every one is playable and we can't wait to start rehearsing. I'm sure when we do rehearse, we might try every one of these songs just to see how they feel.
I think that's what we'll have to do, isn't it? Get into rehearsals and kick them around and see. Because it doesn't matter how good a song is on the album, it doesn't necessarily mean it'll translate to the stage.
Yeah.
And we've had great tracks in the past and we've played them, and after about 3 shows we've dropped them. Not because we don't like playing them, but because you can tell there's a bit of a lull in the audience. Maybe they haven't heard the new stuff. That you need to get very familiar with songs, and then you warm to them on a live basis. So it's difficult. It's a difficult choice.
And one thing about Priest is you guys always change the set list. It's never been the same. You could easily do the same 15 songs every night. You've always put 3 or 4 different ones in each time you come around. Stuff like, not even the classics, like obscure tracks. You're like, oh man, I love that, something off a Point of Entry or something like that, like a Solar Angels. So I've always liked that about the sets, because you're always surprised going to a Priest show.
Well, the last outing we had, we were putting stuff like Never Satisfied from the Rock-A-Roller record from 1974 up against like the Sentinel, and it stands up, and it's just a great testament to the band's foresight and, the way that they wrote music. It all stands up next to each other. So we could easily go out again and do something from 1974, and it will stand up right up until Redeemer of Souls, so that's an exciting concept to think about.
Yeah, it doesn't sound dated. It just seems just as fresh as when it was written in the 70s.
Rob and Glenn, how was it working with Richie for the first time, writing and recording?
It was just natural. Richie came in and just unbelievably fitted into the band in a live aspect, which is his first introduction to us, was to play live with us. And then the next thing to see if it worked was on the writing side of things. And again, he just stepped in there, and it's as though he'd always been there.
You instinctively know when you're musicians, something clicked when Glenn and I first heard Richie's playing. We looked at many, many different players, and there's no doubt that this guy was the best above the best. And it was getting a little bit, not exactly, difficult. Well, to some extent it was, because we were looking and we couldn't find the guy.
I think that, I've said it before, I think if we hadn't found Richie, I don't think we'd have carried on. I think, you You can't just get another guitar player in Priest. You couldn't do it. You had to get absolutely the right person. And Richie, we phoned him for a week, and he thought it was a joke, and he didn't answer the phone.
Yeah, I deleted 2 emails a week apart.
Why, you thought it was one of your friends messing with you? Or?
Well, I thought the name was, Jane Andrews, management. I didn't recognise the name, and the subject matter was Judas Priest. And I thought it's just a mail out because I'm looking at metal sites, or it's just something like a cookie. They're sending me something from a cookie. And when I got the call and they finally tracked me down, luckily they were persistent. I looked in the trash folder, and there they were. And I read them. I've said it before, but. Can you imagine the situation? Judas Priest come out of a new guitar player, and it's not you, and you find the emails afterwards. I don't know what I'd have done.
Kill me now.
Actually, out the window, I think. But luckily they were persistent, and they tracked me down, and here we are today.
Wow!
But it's true. We didn't want just a guitar player. We wanted somebody to be in the family, and just that for the first time we met Richie at Glenn's house, he just felt great, just listening to him talk about his love of heavy metal music, especially that he grew up with Priest, and he learned the craft of Priest's writing and so on and so forth. And he was just saying all the things that we couldn't believe, that it was just spot on. He was more than the guy when we were having the conversations. And then Glenn just said, well, you want to go and play something, And he went upstairs and to the studio and started wailing before we went up, didn't he?
And I said, "Hey, stop that! That's too good.
That's too good.
Stop that!
I can't compete with that."
So within minutes we knew, because you could feel it. I mean, we'd heard his performance on record anyway, but live, just to pick that up so professionally and not stumble or freeze, that was the slam dunk. I mean, to deal with that kind of pressure, and I'm sure it was.
He said, "How do you guys feel about me running around the stage?" We said, "Run round. We can have a rest.
Right.
Run round as much as you like.
Let the young guy run around. No problem."
Well, you don't get that opportunity every day, And as a guitar player, that's what you work up to. You aspire to be that good. You don't ever think you're going to be actually in these bands that you aspire to be as good as. But when that phone call comes in and you can't do it, you might as well put it down. If you've worked that hard. As an individual player, as we all have, and you're put on the spot, and you let the pressure, if you let that pressure get in the way, you might muck it up, So I never let that get in the way. I was a Priest fan. I knew the duty that I had to myself as a player, to the band, and to the fans. And it wasn't like I had to put on another hat. I've got to play this style to fit in. I grew up on the band, writing songs, performing in front of the mirror. It was inherent in who I am as a guitar player and a musician, if you like. So it was very organic.
You were born, 1980?
1980.
So British Steel just came out when he was born.
He was conceived to British Steel.
Absolutely, yeah.
Wow.
Thanks, Dad.
That's crazy. The new record, I mean, there's so much on it. 13 tracks, and then if the bonus, you got 5 other bonus tracks, they'll be on the bonus edition of the CD. Do you have 2 or 3 favorites that you guys like now? I know you've probably been living with this thing for a while. You got sick of this song for a while, then you like this one again. Or do you have any favorites from the record right now at this moment?
I'm still rooting for the title track, Redeemer of Souls, because when we were given the decision to make with regards to what would be the first track we'd send out to the world, is it Redeemer, is it Halls of Valhalla, is it Cold Blooded, is it Battle Cry, what is it? But in the exercise of trying to play a song for a Priest fan that's just going nuts to hear the music, we felt that it was a really strong representation. It wasn't exactly the Priest is back, but it certainly had that element to it. All the classic vibe, the riffs, the melodies, the rhythm. It was just an unobvious way to launch the record and to get everybody even more curious and excited and intrigued about the rest of the material.
Glenn, any favourites?
I like the faster stuff. I like Dragonaut, I like Metalizer, I like Battle Cry. I particularly like Halls of Valhalla. We said earlier on, it's like an adventure. You go on an adventure, you're there at the front of the boat with the spray coming over you and helmets, and there's a bit of rape and pillage in there. You know, that's all heavy metal, good fun,
Absolutely.
good harmless.
Can't beat a bit of good old rape and
You know,
metal.
it's just the whole album's got a great vibe to it, and you know, it's quite diverse as well, but it all works.
Richie, any favorites from the record?
Well, the interesting thing is, I think these days people listen a lot to singles, you know, in general. And the great thing about bands like Priest, for me, has always been you listen to the record as a whole, and it's an experience. There's a start, there's a middle, and an end. You know, you can listen. There's kind of, it's like movies within a movie. You know, you'll go somewhere with Halls of Valhalla, you'll be on like a Viking ship crashing against the waves and the rocks and stuff, and then you'll be, you know, there's Battle Cry where, you know, the horn sounds and you're all on the same side, and March of the Damned is all about the community of, you know, who we are and who the fans are. We're all fans. So there's little acts which make up the bigger picture, you know what I mean? So I'd have to say the album as a whole. I love listening to the whole thing from start to finish. But if I had to choose 2 or 3 tracks, I think it would be Halls of Valhalla, Cold Blooded, and Sword of Damocles. Sword of Damocles is something a bit different, in my opinion, for a Priest record. It's got a different kind of vibe to it. And again, it's another journey in itself with a pretty potent message. So those ones, I think.
I really like how the album ends, the beginning of the end. It's a nice ending to the record. I thought that was a great track to put the last track. I mean, Rob, you mentioned earlier this album is like relentless. You're saying it's just non-stop, and that's a great closing song to the record to really close
It's
it
an
out.
unusual thing for us to do as well. I don't think in all of the recordings that we've made, we've finished with the archetypal ballad, and it's an unusual ballad in the respect that usually heavy metal ballads have quiet passages and they're really strong, full of dynamics, and they pull back, and a little bit of the same. Then you have a big, massive, huge lead break section, and go out on a chorus outro fade. So this is a very, very unusual song for us, but we felt that we, rather than finish the climax of the whole experience with dead silence, this is kind of a way to as you're listening through those bars and as the final song is going through, you naturally become reflective. You're reflective about a lot of things, not just about Priest. I think this particular song makes you do that, and that was a bonus to get that type of feedback, even in ourselves when we play the running order. So it's like a cool down after a marathon, to some extent, and it's a really nice way to end it. And then more often than not, you go, "That was great. I can't wait to start all over again." And if you've got that extra emotion built in, that's a bonus in itself.
There's also a great bonus track. You know, you guys got 5 bonus tracks that didn't, you say, basically fit in with the record. So you wanted to put, they were great tracks, so they were better on their own. That's the last song, "Never Forget." Is it? Obviously that's like an ode to the fans, but I really, really dug that song a lot. Is that something you might play live, or is it something maybe at the end of the encore you put on?
It'd be nice to play it live as a thank you to the fans. It'd be a nice gesture. It's got some great lyrics to it. You know, Rob wrote some great lyrics to that, and I particularly, like I said the other day, the memories. You know, you mentioned memories and dreams we dared, and it goes right back to the beginning when we first started to write and perform, and then, you know, you get more successful and the audiences get bigger, but it's always us and the audience. Priest never go out as a band on the stage with the audience watching separate. It's the whole thing, it's the whole occasion. We've written so many anthems and the audience sing along now to guitar riffs, lead breaks, verses, choruses. And that's what we love, you know. And no matter how many times we play Breaking the Law or Living After Midnight, when you get on that stage and the atmosphere hits you, it's just as exciting every time.
You're playing it for the first time, which you are.
And that's because
playing
of the
it for that
audience.
first time in Paris or Jersey or Tokyo. At the moment that you're playing Breaking the Law, it's real, and it's happening for that very first time. And Priest is like a time machine now. We just carry you through the generations of metal.
I can really see that song being a great live song that really close out the show or something like that. I mean,
Get the old lighters out.
Yeah, or the iPhones hold the phones up now.
It was an important point you made that, the bonus tracks are by no means lesser tracks than...
No, not at all.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
we
sometimes
felt
that's
that
the case.
It is sometimes the case, or they're B-sides, or they end up not being used. We felt that because we had such a creative, it was just coming out of all three of us, we can't keep any of these back, So we felt that with the statement of the record, the 13 tracks, it was relentless, as you said earlier on. It was relentless from beginning to end. And these ones maybe had a slightly different vibe and maybe didn't fit in with that sentiment, but were great songs nonetheless. And we just wanted to make sure that they were put out as well, because some of those are going to be classic tracks as well to some Priest fans. Maybe some even more than songs that made the record, if you know what I'm saying. And that's the beauty about the Priest fans. They're so passionate, different opinions, and it will be great to see, when it's all unleashed. And that's what we wanted to make sure, that, they're not considered to be any less poignant as songs, so...
So it's been 40 years now for Judas Priest. How does looking back, how do you feel about your legacy in heavy metal? You guys in Black Sabbath basically created metal and everything after that, and just metal still going as strong as ever, and you guys are a huge influence on pretty much every band.
We just feel really proud, don't we, Glenn? Just really proud of a job well done. I know it's the British way of things or what, but we've had a lot of fun doing what we do. We take our work seriously. We feel that we didn't drop the ball. We were always committed and dedicated and did the best that we could do from record to record, tour to tour, and we sustained, and it is extraordinary. There are very few bands in the world, not only in heavy metal, that can say they're still active and have something important and valuable to say after 40 years of music.
Yeah, I think that along the way, as long as we've inspired the younger kids to pick up a guitar or get into music or write songs or whatever, then we've done our job, It's something to be very proud of, that along the way you've not only enjoyed yourself and been very productive yourself and as a band, but you also inspired other youngsters to pick up the instruments and do their own thing.
And it's pretty remarkable, as you point out, that the inventors of heavy metal, we're still here. It's like having the inventors of classical music still here, or the inventors of the blues or jazz. We're still here, If you want to see where it actually came from, well, look no further than Priest and obviously Sabbath.
And then also, being lucky with health-wise, with everything, all the classic bands, Tony Iommi, over the last couple of years being sick, Malcolm Young, you got Lemmy's, who's had health problems, the late, great Ronnie James Dio. So just that you guys are healthy and still out there playing is amazing, too. It
is a blessing. And those things just tend to step up someday, and you're facing mortality, which is just the way life goes. But there's nothing better to do than to face that. And that's what I love about that side of metal. It seems since day one we've had somebody pushing against us, but we've always pushed back, and we've always won the day.
I mean, talking to Tony Iommi, we were saying the other day that right from the very beginning, he lost the tops of his fingers in an accident. Didn't stop him. He went out and he forged some of the most memorable and classic riffs we've ever known and ever will know. And then what's happened to him recently, that didn't stop him either. They went out and they done a new record, #1 in 50 countries, and I think it's an inspirational statement for anyone that wants to do anything with their life. You can do it. If you can go through those things and still come out on top like he done. For me, it's a great, inspiration to see that. So take life by the horns and get out there and grab it,
Is there anything in the Priest career that you guys have not hit goal-wise? Is there something out there that you're still reaching for? Yeah, I know the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, forget it. It's like that. You guys have no say in that. You guys should be in there, obviously. But is there something out there that...
Well, those events, whether it's a Grammy or whatever, you're not driven by that, but you certainly appreciate that type of recognition when the awards and the accolades start to come. I don't think any band knows if and when that's going to take place, but when it does, I think it makes you ponder, and obviously makes you even more grateful. We've never taken anything for granted in Priest. We've never written a song and go, oh, this is going to be triple platinum. We've never sold a show thinking, oh, this is going to sell out. We've just been extremely, just from where we're from, I guess, we are just very grateful for all of the things that come back to us from the work that we put out. But I don't think there's anything left, is there? What's left?
I think Redeemer's a good example of an answer to your question, because if you'd have asked us, is there anything we wanted to achieve before we wrote Redeemer, we'd have probably said, yeah, we'd like to write another, really powerful Priest-like album, and we've accomplished that. And not only just accomplished it, 19 songs, not just 8. It flooded out of us. We were so prolific, and we worked so well together. So there's always something else. If you ask us a question now, maybe we've got another Redeemer in front of us. Ready on the blueprint to be written. So there's no end to it, really. As long as you're still enjoying your music and still enjoying getting on that stage, then the world's an oyster, really.
And one thing I've always liked about Priest, you guys always took chances with records. Never made the same record twice. Like you come out with like a British Steel, and then you followed up with a Point of Entry, completely different record. And then you come back with Scream for Vengeance. So you could have easily rode that British Steel wave and made British Steel 2. And just taken it and just went in that formula. But no, and then you got Painkiller, you got Ram It Down. So you just always turbo. Yeah. And then, Nostradamus, you do the concept record, too. So I've always liked that as a fan, always appreciated that it wasn't the same record.
Thank you. And maybe that's just parts, again, of the magic of Priest. Some bands do replicate themselves for whatever reason. But we've always been intrigued, haven't we, and interested about other possibilities. We've always said, try everything, don't shoot it down without actually laying down a track or playing a riff or whatever. You can talk about an idea and it might sound ridiculous, but then comes out the speakers and you go, oh my God, this is probably the greatest thing that we've got right now. So, yeah, Redeemer of Souls is what Judas Priest is in 2014, but I think it also represents a great part of our musical metal legacy.
Well, I think it's a great testament to the strength of character that the band has always had. You can do something that's slightly different, and it still retains, for me as a fan, listening to it, it still retains the essence of that strength of character. You could, as a band, they can try different things and new adventures, but you can, even with a new record, you can hear the essence of Judas Priest all over it. Even when it does go into turbo territory, or as you said, Point of Entry or Painkiller territory, that's your band, and it's still in there. The essence is still there, and I think it's a great testament to the character that the band has.
Richie, new in the band. Well, you've been in 3 years, so not exactly new. What is your favorite Priest record, but not the new one?
Defenders of the Faith.
Really?
Without a doubt.
Now, why?
Because I always felt that it took me somewhere else. I love music that does that. Sometimes you look for music that you just want to hear guys in a room, or you want it to be raw and. But this took me somewhere else, and if it was one record that I had to pick, it definitely would be Defenders of the Faith, and it's the 30th anniversary of that record this year as well, so that's an exciting thing. But, things like Jawbreaker, Night Comes Down, I mean, it's endless. It's a fantastic record, fantastic statement from the band.
Rob, if you had to pick one, not the new one, not Redeemer of Souls.
Sad Wings of Destiny.
Really?
Yeah, I think we kind of found something from the recording of Rock-a-Roller, which is our first professional venture into, professional musicianship. I still love some of the stuff. Well, I love all the stuff on Rock-a-Roller, but it's us as we were then. We were very young, very fresh, very new in the whole world of professionalism, and I think we took all of those experiences from Rock-a-Roller, which is a tough record to make, because we always tell everybody that we made that record like vampires, because the cheapest rate for the studio was the night shift. So we slept outside in the van all day. Then we go to work around 8 or 9 o'clock at night and work all night and knock off at 9, 10 in the morning and then get back in the van and sleep. We were literally like, it's a vampire record. But that just shows you, I think every band goes through that type of challenge. No matter, we're making a record no matter what. And we made it. But I think we learned an extraordinary amount of useful information, so that
a bit like that sheer luxury. I used to sleep in a rolled up newspaper in a septic tank.
yeah, very, very Monty Python. So by the time we did Sad Wings of Destiny, man, that's still a reference point for this band in the major launch of things. Yeah, definitely.
Glenn, what about you?
There are milestone albums. You know, Sad Wings was one, Painkiller was another. But I think really, British Steel would be. It's not the fiercest album we ever did, but it's just got such classic songs on it. It was an immediate song album. We wrote it half of it in the studio, so it was put together very quickly. And that's usually some of your best work, things you do quickly that just gel. So I'd say British Steel.
Rob, what do you think of the state of metal right now? I mean, in the States, it seems like it's hurting a little, attendance-wise. In Europe, healthy. South America, healthy.
It swings and roundabouts. It's the way metal has always seemed to have gone. I mean, we went through that punk new wave phase where we were, pushed to one side and metal's dead and nobody's interested. We never felt that. We understand that it's the ebb and the flow, and if it's diminished or pulled back a little bit now, it's going to come back stronger. I mean, there's a handful of top metal bands right now, whether it's Five Finger Death Punch or Avenged Sevenfold, that are really carrying the flag of the new guard of metal. But in its broad concept, when we first began, there was only what we still feel is our classic style of heavy metal. And then, of course, as we went through the 90s, it got extremely diversified. But it's all good, it's all good. And it's always exciting to consider who's around the corner, who's going to be top of the heap this year, next year, 5 years from now. But metal will always be there. We've always said metal will never die, and that's an absolute fact.
Avenged Sevenfold, Five Finger Death Punch, you think carried a torch?
In their genres of metal, it is metal, and they do it well, and they're playing that particular sound for those particular fans. What is cool about both of those bands is that a lot of their fans are also Priest fans. So there is a connectivity. Metal fans are rabid about the particular band that they support, and everything else sucks.
Yeah,
that's just the way of the world, The New York Knicks suck. What are they called now? The Brooklyn
Nets.
Yeah, okay, Brooklyn Nets suck, and whatever sucks. It's that type of intense passion, fanaticism in metal as well as anything else. But no, I think it's great. I mean, just pull out the iPhone and just look at the metal charts, and it's just roaring, regardless of commercial success or how many records are selling or how many people are attending. It's still there, and that's the most important thing.
Can we expect a U.S. tour?
I think our fans want it without a shadow of a doubt.
I know it's been like 3 years
fans want it already. We haven't even heard the record. They just want to see Priest live again.
Oh, yeah.
So the thing about the Epitaph tour, it wasn't the farewell tour. It was our way of trying to say this is the. If you want to know everything about the life and rich history of Judas Priest, come to the Epitaph show, because after that we will be going out, but it'll be less condensed, be more condensed. Whatever. We're just going to tour differently. We're still going to go out, but we're not going to go out in these big 2-year treks. And that's not to affect the fans that we in parts of the world that we may or may not get to again. But we do want to go out. Priest has always been a live band as much as a band that records music. So we just ask everybody to just do the usual and check in on the website now and again.
And we might do it with no frills, no gimmicks, back to basics. We've got such a wealth of music and songs to choose from that I think we're going to let the music speak for itself.
Yeah, don't come for the lasers and the flames, because that's not going to happen again.
Right.
We think we've done enough of that, and it doesn't matter how many lasers and flames and bombs and explosions you've gone off. I think that's part of a good night out, but at the end of the day, if you're a metal fan and you love that band, you just want to see your band and you want to hear those songs, and that's it. It doesn't matter if you've got a bazillion lights and a million watts of power. There's your band in the flesh. That's the greatest, testimony to each other. So, as Glenn says, we'll if we do go out, it'll be somewhat stripped down, which could be real fun to do.
Yeah. On occasion, we've done clubs for whatever reason, promotion, or just because it's a passing date, or just because we like to do it. And if you've never seen Priest in a club, it's the most powerful we ever are. I mean, to see Priest, very few lights, just in a smallish venue, cram-packed with people. It's just got so much energy, and volume, you know. It's the way to see the band. I'm not saying we're going to do a club date tour.
Well, maybe at Eddie Trunk's 35th anniversary.
Yeah.
No, I saw you at Eddie Trunk's 30th anniversary. You guys.
That was the first time we'd done that kind of thing.
And that was great.
It felt amazing. The fans just went ballistic.
It's so powerful.
So that was a good little test in the waters to see how the reaction would be, and people were like, they just came in onto the stage in their street clothes, and it's still happening.
All right, well, that wraps it up. I'm Jim Florentine. I want to thank Richie Faulkner, Rob Halford,
Thank you.
Glenn Tipton for spending time with us. Redeemer Souls, a kick-ass record. And get the bonus edition, because the bonus tracks should be on the record.
It's going to be on vinyl as well.
Oh, it's going to be on. That's what I wanted to ask.
It's going to be on vinyl as well. Big gatefold, double disc, fantastic.
Nice.
We love putting the time and effort into every aspect of presenting the music to the fans, and of course our fans and our metal fans in general, they want the physical product. They don't want to pull it out of a cloud. Some do, and there you go. If you want it out of a cloud, fine. But the vast majority want to hold the CD, and so all of the people that we work with have done a fantastic job, haven't they, Glenn? When you see the booklet and all of the other extra goodies that we're making for you right now, it'll be even more of a treasured possession to add to your collection.
All right, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.